It's not that we don't want to do it. It's that we're not at optimum doingness, I guess. I don't know.
Optimum doingness. I want a shirt that says optimum doingness. If we could just make a business out of band names and t-shirts,
we'd be doing well. We'd be doing, I mean, well, not like we'd have money or anything, but we'd be having a lot of fun. Yeah.
Thank you. The band name list that I have is absolutely enormous, and so much to the point that the kids are joining in now. They're not good at it, not to be mean, but they're pretty bad, but they're trying, and they're learning what may or may not be a band name, but it's just kind of fun to hear when I go, oh, that's a band name, and I'm thinking to myself, that's totally not. But I go, oh yeah, absolutely, and let them join in, because Ryan and I are constantly, at least once a day, there's, oh, that's a band name. Not all of them make it onto the G sheet that we do, but yeah, there's.
It's funny, you have a G sheet. I have like a Moleskine that I write. I scrawl them with my hand into this this notebook, but I think it could be useful in your band name project when it's time to actually apply a genre of music to the band name.
Oh yeah,
because all the band names that we all come up with could be death metal bands, but there's probably some nuance in.
Oh yeah, there's definitely some, like there's a few off the top of my head that I know would be early 2000s like pop garbage. One of my favorites is called, the band is Low Level Millennial. That would be like, maybe you call the album Quiet Quitting.
Yeah. The Great Resignation.
Yeah, the quiet quitting thing is, I can see it from both. I see it from both sides, because I've been employed and I am an employer. So, and maybe I'm coming at it from the wrong point of view or whatever. Quiet quitting sounds a lot to me like just doing your job. When I read the description of quiet quitting,
could you assume that in the last month and a half I have used the computer and the phone like a 67-year-old man? So, what is quiet quitting?
Okay, yeah. So essentially, it's someone, and I think this is maybe more my take on it. It's that you're not going to do anything that's above and beyond based upon what you're paid or how you're compensated. You're just going to do the things that are specifically relegated to your role and compensation. I think the compensation thing is important to note there. And it's a blowback, I think, from the idea of doing something that you're not getting paid for, which I think in the short term is something, as an employer, doing something that you're not getting paid for is a way to show me that I should pay you for it. And, that money should come from that. And I don't mean in years. If someone really steps up to the plate and they show you, as opposed to tell you what they can do, in 3 to 6 months, I'm going to want to make sure they're consistently doing that. I'm going to want to pay them for that. Now, I get it that not a lot of organizations work that way. In fact, most probably don't. So I understand the viewpoint of like, look, I'm not going to burn myself out for you. My viewpoint is that I want to compensate people so well that they're willing to go as hard as possible so that they can grow and learn and develop. It's that second piece that I think is missing out there, that compensation piece, where it's like, oh yeah, go the extra mile, but the other part of it, pay the extra buck.
Well, it's interesting because I think that, in the world that we live in, where people can, if you're a skilled worker, that can work independently of an employer. People that are in an organization now as an employee are starting to work that way in their mind. Like you and I would never do something we didn't want to do for free. If someone asked us, we would say no. So we would quiet quit our way out of that very quickly. And I think it's the same with the people that understand that they're not going, there's nothing in it for them to do more work. And what the functional difference is, I think, is that you and I, for example, will do something for free if we're passionate about it and we care about it or we're excited about it.
Or we can see the long-term benefit of it. It's like this weird incentive that doesn't exist, where it's like, why would someone put all of this effort into something professionally if they're not going to get anything out of it? Now, I would question, I think a lot of people that say, oh, quiet quitting, I think it's a misnomer. I think it should actually, the true meaning of quiet quitting is doing your job well. Like whenever I read about it, when I read the descriptions that I see on LinkedIn, it reads like just doing your job well and not much more. As an employer, great. You're gonna come in and you're gonna do your job well. Fantastic. That's a great idea. Like I almost feel like if everyone was quiet quitting, we'd have a lot more productivity in the world. So I think for a large amount of people, quiet quitting would actually mean doing more work.
Yeah, or doing the work that they've been brought on to do, which ultimately is the goal. I think there's a culture that is going away of the expectation that every single person that gets into an organization needs to climb the ladder to the very top and step on everybody on the way up. Whereas ultimately there are people that are just really great at their role, and almost every single time that you promote them beyond that, it's a giant mess.
Yeah, that's the I think they call it the Peter principle. I think, is it the Peter principle or is it Bob? It's some guy's name, some white guy's name, where you're taking someone that I think, and I might be mixing up a lot of ideas here, but you basically promote someone until they can no longer competently do their job, and then they fail. I think it's the Peter principle. So, if it is, I win. If not, I'm sorry.
Well,
is there anything to win? What have I won, really? I won being right.
Yeah, that's it.
Do I ever care about when I'm wrong? Usually, no. I think
you have
it's a gift.
Yes, to walk away from wrong as quickly as you do, that's impressive.
I don't dwell on it.
No. And I've adopted that in the sense of the future and the past. Like I don't think about those two things very often. I have to set aside time to think about the future of the company or the client work or the brand or whatever we're working on, but I don't spend a lot of time going, oh, that happened, and because there's nothing you can do about the fact that it happened.
Well, the future and past thing is interesting because I kind of ran right into an enormous northern-sized wall that is now protecting the ideas that exist in the cold north. And so let me back up. So like three months ago, when I decided that, all right, gonna in-house the idea of a brand ambassador, and we're gonna this larger campaign for our new business efforts that you and I put together. All that was, we were starting to get it done, and it was yesterday that I sat down and I realized that we had met that goal overall. Sarah's rocking and rolling. She's far in advance of where I thought someone would be 5 or 6 weeks in. We're doing everything.
Sarah might be listening to this.
We're doing everything.
People, so go, Sarah.
She's doing a good job. Very impressed.
Good job, Sarah.
Very happy. She beats herself up a lot when she makes mistakes. I have to keep reminding her. It's not about, you should be making mistakes every single week, because that means you're learning new things. But you don't want to be making the same mistakes. That's a problem. But new mistakes are great because you're learning, you're pushing yourself, and that's awesome. So, but I realized that all of the things that I had wanted to do are done. And then the horror set in.
Liminal space.
I had no idea what I was going to do. What's next? And I'm still in that right now. I'm still in that space. And for me, it's really hard because the idea of to do something is to not do nothing. I hate being static. I hate not moving. And I run right now is a very dangerous place for me. That's the Right Now song with
Van Halen.
Van Halen song is running through my head.
Now!
It just started running through my head, and I want to drink crystal clear Pepsi. But no, so I run the risk of tactical execution without strategic forethought. And because I'm going to start to do things that I haven't gamed out appropriately to fulfill that need of action. And right now I'm sitting in this mire and muck of inaction. So much point where today, I was on the way here and you let me know you were running a little bit behind. And I said, oh, that's good, because I don't have my computer. I can't do any work. I'm going to have to sit here with just myself and just accept that. And it's hard. It's really, really hard for me, that in-between space that I right now am thoroughly lodged in. I'm going to come out of it. And I that much I know. I don't know how long it's going to take. I want it to last no longer than this week. So I will will it into existence if I have to. And there are what's nice is there are places we've stuffed ideas. Right now I'm reviewing the past. I'm going through some of our collective documentation. I'm going through past ideas because I know I've done some other strategic thoughts. So it exists. I just go. It's like an archaeological dig.
Yeah. The in between is a tough spot. The way that I deal with it is to just lay into the idea that you're not going to be effective for a while, and that's okay, because ultimately by not being effective, you're being more effective than you would be if you tried to be effective. It's like that Bukowski, like, don't try. He didn't mean like it wasn't. It was perceived as like a nihilist sort of like thing, but ultimately what he meant was like, once you care about something and you care about it deeply and you found something to latch onto, then try like hell and don't stop until it's done. But if there's nothing, don't try.
Yeah, you can't force the thing.
Right.
It's almost not to, can you make yourself fall in love?
No.
It's just something that happens, right? I'll put it through the lens of the kids. Lizzie's sitting over with us now, and she's eating her lunch because her school was being built, and it still isn't finished being built, and it's September something. I don't know, was it the 8th today or the 7th? I don't know. It's September 6th.
There's too many people quiet quitting on that one.
Yeah. There's just not, but next week the school will be open. But anyways, it's like the love for your children. It just, at some point, happens, and it might be right when they're born. It might be 6 months later. Everyone gets that like switch flicks differently for everyone. For me with Lizzie, it was actually much later. It took about 6 months for that just to happen, but you can't make it happen. It just does. And I think that's the same thing with an idea or a new direction or not even a new direction, but the advancement of a direction. That's where I'm at right now. I'm not looking to come up with something new. I'm saying, how do I build on what we have? Well, I couldn't have figured out how we build on what we have until we had what we have. And then you say, oh, it just,
Yeah, I go through that justification now a lot, which is that it's not going to be where I want it to be just yet. And that just yet is so critical to the process, because it's not that it won't ever be the way it's supposed to be. It's just that right now there are reasons that are either outside of my control or well within my control, but too much work to justify doing, that cause something to be quite not there yet. And what I do is I just accept it and I say, okay, what can I do to move this even, one step forward, and publish that one step forward. Don't hide from it or keep it hidden because you're worried what other people will think. Just publish it, and whatever that looks like, whatever publishing means. It might mean like moving an initiative forward and just making a decision to proceed, or it might look like literally putting something up for people to see. But that's the only way to overcome the in-between once you've landed on a direction. The dangerous part with the in-between space is that you can get stuck in a not doing anything space, which I know you struggle with. For me, it's actually the opposite of that, which is, here come the side quests, and some side quests are necessary side quests. Like,
yeah, you're looking around, there's a cat and there's a light on him, and I'm like, I wonder what this cat has to offer.
yeah, exactly. Like a video game, and you just stray off of the main quest, the main story, and you go off and you start noodling with stuff that, now I give myself a lot of freedom to do that on the creative side. If I just showed you a video of a floating alien talking that I made yesterday because I got sick of what I was working on and I needed to do something that was different. But I'm also applying that holistically in my life with other endeavors that are not related to the business directly, but help the business because I'm doing them. I bought a bunch of equipment last week, and I've been sculpting stone, like granite. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I spent some time learning the process of doing that.
I want a bust of myself now.
But I figured that you'd
Marble
ask for,
bust.
once I told you this, I figured you'd ask for a bust.
If you get, total ego play, 100% admit to it,
Yeah. But I use that. I throw my ambition into that, so that accomplishment of something ambitious works itself out in one way or another.
Yeah, I'm learning that I need to do routine breaking, because when I have a plan, settling into my routine is very, very, it makes me incredibly effective, and I like my routines. Kids going back to school is tough because the routine changes every single year about who gets picked up and dropped off and all this other stuff, and so I have to accept that routine breaks, and I have. What's nice about this in-between space that I'm in is it landed right when my routine breaking is going to happen, and I think it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Because I still have the tyranny of the screen where I'll be like, why 2 hours go by, I'm like, what have I done and why am I right here right now? And I shouldn't be. I need to break this this routine, because normally I know what I need to do, and I'm just chewing through it, and I don't have that right now. So I'm kind of just like
Floating.
Yeah.
I do the same thing with routine breaks. I need to, a lot of times, to just jog something loose, I need to do something that I wouldn't normally do on a Wednesday or a Thursday, or because when you're in go mode, there's a lot of just almost to the end of like being too much. There's a lot of discipline that gets applied. And so if I have an idea and I'm on a screen and I'm sitting down and I'm working on it, I'll work from 8 to 5 on it, and I'll do 45 on and 15 off, and 45 on and 15 off, and I've got my coffee and my water, and I'm very regimented when it's time to do. When it's not time to do, I float everywhere. Some of the volunteer activities help, eat up time, make me feel like I'm contributing to something. Art definitely helps me. But even something as simple as like, I'm going to break from convention and not be on a computer today. And there's a physical piece of that, which is, now what do I do with myself? But there's also an emotional piece of that people don't talk about, which is that if I don't achieve anything today, am I worth anything? And that is something that I've learned to really, work on and combat. Because if you look at our roles as owners of the company, we don't need to be glued to a computer every second of the day.
Nor should we be.
And so when you, however, everybody does it differently, but if you sit down and review, even if it's just a cursory thought process, you sit down and review what you did that day. If you're weighing the physical implementation of a task too heavily and you didn't do much that day, that was actually physical. You don't have anything to show physically for what you did. It can eat at you if you're not prepared to think about it and work at it and go, yeah, I didn't get a lot done, but I did move a lot of thought forward. And it's just not something that we're used to measuring in a world where widgets are on an assembly line. And what you and I often will deal with is breaking out of that process of working on something, and it's done, and now we're in a clearing where we don't know what's next. And so that's tricky. That's hard to fight through. For me, it's permission based.
Like you need to. You're letting yourself do it.
You just did it a minute ago. You said, I'm in this space. You named it. You acknowledged it.
Well, that's one of my big things is I have to. One of the things that I suffered from and still do for a long time is I get angry over something, but I don't know what it is, or I get anxious over something. I don't know why. Once I name it, it almost instantly goes away. It's almost like a demon. And when you speak the demon's name, it destroys its power.
Yeah.
And anger and anxiety are two of the things that, for a big part of my 20s and my early 30s, which, now I'm 40, I struggled with. And it still exists. It happens. It still happens. But instead of it leading to negative behavior, I kind of cloister myself off. I say, all right, I know that if someone gives me the ground, they're going to get, ground isn't like the electrical ground. They're going to get hit with the anger. So I know that I need to shut down a little bit, and I communicate that with people, be it my kids, or I'd say, hey, I need to kind of cool down, shut down for like a few hours and figure out why I'm having these feelings. My son actually has a similar challenge. So my guess is maybe it isn't quite as much nurture as I thought. Maybe there's some nature in it too, where, getting he gets overwhelmed by certain feelings, and understanding the nature of those feelings and then naming them has helped. And I hope, as I've explained to him, hopefully it's going to help him not make some of the mistakes that I made. But naming that thing is a part of allowing it to exist, and then accepting that it exists, and you can move through it or past it or whatever you want to call it. And just like that whole permission based thing, we also look to each other for permission, where it's like, hey, I'm in this space, where part of it is because we're letting the other one know that, hey, this is why I seem a little weird, and I don't want to pollute you, but also it's, hey, I'm going through this right now, and I need to know that you're okay with the fact that I'm worthless right now. And I'm okay that I'm worthless, but I need you to be okay. It's a weird dynamic that exists.
Yeah, I do it with you, or I'll do it with my wife, Rachel, too, where I'll say, I just need, I'm not doing anything today. And I know that. And I'm just going to lean into that. And I'm going to go to one of my many wonderful places of distraction, whether that's, art, whether that's golf, whether that's, sitting on the couch, just deep couch sitting.
But the sooner you do that and accept it, the sooner you're going to get out of it.
Oh yeah. The odds are that I'll say I need a full day, and by 11 a.m. I'm back at it, because
same thing.
It's got nothing to do with the time applied. It's got everything to do with accepting the fact that you're falling, and there's nothing to hold on to.
Yeah, you've stopped fighting the nature of yourself in that time frame. And once you stop fighting your own nature, you can then start accepting it and moving on from it. So it's almost like you're an immune system. Your immune system can get worn out fighting, a virus or a bacteria or whatever that I'm not a doctor, clearly, that has invaded your body. Your nature can get burned out from fighting itself. And once you accept that, you're so much better off.
Yeah, it's that saying. It's like a Buddhist saying, like the bad news is that we're falling, but the good news is that there's nothing to hold on to.
And I almost think maybe there's no ground.
Yeah, you're just falling in perpetuity, because it's a, in that particular instance, the way that is explained is that you need to let go. You need to just acquiesce to the forces that are around you. So even when I'm upset, or, my daughter, I call it having big feelings. But when I have a big feeling, the first thing I do is pull the veil off of that and dissect it now. And what am I really upset about? Because anger is always misplaced at first. So can I place the anger properly? And then that either helps dissolve it, or it's, okay, I can do something about the fact that I'm angry about that, or I can do nothing about the fact that I'm angry about that. Because now I've really gotten to the root cause of what's making me angry. Sometimes it's, self-anger that is being projected. Other times it's just, there's, it's raining. And there's nothing I can do about that.
Self-anger is like my favorite one, because it's almost always that.
Yeah,
whenever I'm angry, I'm probably mad at myself because there's something I didn't see, or something I should have thought of, or I work really hard to not put my expectations that I put on myself on everyone else. But I don't mind the expectations I put on myself, like for me, but when there are times when they become a negative, when they convert into anger, they can become a negative force. And then of course that negative force can then be put on other people, and it doesn't really help you. So like you said, identifying those places are good. That's why it's, I see a lot of things on LinkedIn about like, business coaches and all, and you and I are very, very lucky because we have one another.
Right.
It's a very Frodo, Samwise setup, in that one of us is usually one of those two, because it's the idea of, I can't carry it, that it being the ring, but I can carry you. And we each serve those roles at different points. And I'll tell you, I don't know how anyone doing this being, having a mildly successful company, they do it by themselves. If there weren't partners, ostensibly I would have at the end of the year 3 to 4 times the compensation. Not worth it. In no way, shape, or form is that worth it, because there's no one else to carry any part of the thing that can only be carried by someone that has an equity stake in the business. And that's why it's so important that we have, there's you, there's me, there's Lori, there's John. All of us have our place in the business, and we're able to hand off components of it that, I don't want to say no amount of money would be worth it, because I'm not a fool, but no amount of money that you could actually pull out of a business of our size would be worth it. And I don't, to anyone that can do it, I guess hats off to them, because I can't.
I have, again, side quest, right? I have met with many people that are in business that want to talk. They want to, they see that. It always starts with, what do you actually do? Because nobody knows what I actually do, including me.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, your guess is as good as mine, pal.
Yeah. My job is to stay inspired, whatever that means. But it always ends. The conversations go the same way every single time. Well, I want to get to a place where I can grow my business. I think I'm ready to grow. Or I've sort of lost my patience with people that are starting a business and want to talk, whatever.
It's hard, and it's great that they want to do that, but when the failure rate of new businesses is so high, it's very hard to invest almost any time in that. It really is.
So I'll give them a lunch, or I'll sit and talk, and we'll chat. But what I hear more often than not is, oh yeah, well, yeah, I have a team, but they don't do this and they don't do that and they don't do this and they don't do that. Which means that, I'm up until 11 p.m. at night answering emails. I'm up in the morning at 6 a.m. working on the same thing. My weekends are not for me. They're like, I spend all weekend working. And it's always, and I think you coined this somewhere along the way, but they don't own the company, it owns them. And that's the advice I always end with is, it doesn't sound to me like you own a company at all. It sounds like it owns you. And until you figure out how you're going to delegate better, either to your employees, because it could be a person thing. It could be that they're just a control freak and micromanaging everything. Or until you're willing to give up some of what you do, either let it go because you're not good at it and it's eating up all of your time, or it almost always ends with, well, I don't want to let that go. So what do you think I should do? You need to find a partner that can do that really well.
Yeah, you need to find someone that you can trust to let it go too.
Right.
That's it.